How does it feel to treat me like you do when you've laid your hands on me and told me who you are? Thought I was mistaken. I thought I heard your words. Tell me, how do I feel? Tell me now, how do I feel?
What is up, party people of the SFL? What's going on? You like that new order, Art? That was just for you, buddy. Just for you and your request last week. You're welcome, and welcome to everybody else to episode 24 of Access Live. Thank you for tuning in. Let me know if you can hear me okay. According to the chat, you could hear the music okay, so I want to make sure you can hear me as well. We had another amazing weekend this past weekend of SFL action, and we are 2/3 of the way home for season 15. Can you believe that already? 2/3 of the way. So what does that mean? It means in addition to our weekly recaps, we get our very first official playoff standings brought to us by none other than the commish himself, Cameron Irvine, in our After Dark segment tonight. So make sure you guys stick around for that. He has all the 11 seeds worked out, plus a couple teams that are just on the fringe looking to get in. Thank you, everybody, for telling me I'm loud and clear. I'm glad I'm not wasting my breath right now like I did that one time. In addition to Cam tonight, we have an amazing panel recapping our Week 8 games that I will get to in a moment. And a very special guest tonight, an owner of a team that I have kept wondering if they were 100% absolutely, positively faux real. And well, they've not only answered my question, but they've answered the questions of the entire SFL. Jeremy Vega, owner of the Denver Nightwings, is here with us tonight as our special guest and recapper. So before I get this party started, you know what I like to do. Let me get in here in the chat and take a look who's here. We got Freddie. We got Bo Martin Jr. Charles is in the house. Kendra with your leaky roof. I'm sorry to hear about that. Doug Britton, good to see you. Dustin Zach. Rosca. Wiggy 9800. Pink Lisa, the love of my life, is in the house. Extra Blue X, I hope you're here. Twin Screw, good to see you, bro. Monica Naka, always faithful. Thanks for tuning in. Art Vandalay, tonight's special request, Music Man. Let's see. Ethan Kai, good to see you, bro. Wildfire Micro. I'm not sure who you are, but it looks like, from the BHP. So for those of you who don't know, I started announcing games on the BHB today, and it looks like I'm going to be doing some more games tomorrow. So I think a few of them are in the house. So thank you guys from the BHB for tuning in. Who else we got? Mello Taylor, always here. Good to see you again, as always. Bob Funk, another faithful, loyal listener to the show. Matthew, NOLA. Oh, New Orleans, Louisiana. Good to see you, bro. Who else we got here? Hugo. Somebody please draft Hugo? What else we got here? Gunny, of course. Gunny better be here. Rapid Raccoon. Good to see you, bro. Always here as well. Eagle. And there's there's Chad. I don't know if I want to say your name on the air, bro, but good to see you. It was fun calling games with you today. Dwayne, thanks for tuning in. Good to see you too. And I think that's about everybody. If I missed you, I apologize, but there's a lot of names in the house tonight. All right, so let's get this party started. Like I said, we have got a great panel. We have one of our regulars. He's a staple of the show. I don't know. We might have to change the name of the show to Franchise Live, because Frank the Franchise Wade, who is tight end for Las Vegas, he's with Sim Scouts Inc., and he's a regular on the show all the time, is here with us again tonight. Frank, thanks for coming. Thanks for being here, and thanks for always being faithful to the show.
Oh, always glad to be here. And Dave, I'm looking at the names. I am with royalty tonight.
It's no joke, right? There's some good people in the house. Speaking of good people, we have what I think we have deemed either the second sexiest voice in the SFL or tied for the first with Ashley Jackson. We've got Coach Craven, who is obviously offensive coordinator with my glorious Lone Star Glory. He's the host of Coach's Corner. He's with Epic Esports. Coach, is there anything you're not doing in this league anymore? Welcome to the show again.
You threw me with that speaking of good people thing. I thought you must be talking about somebody else. Thank you. My mother appreciates that comment. I'm sure there's something. Oh, I'm not on the beat team. So there you go.
Okay.
There are things I'm not doing.
I will shoot Slyn Shady a DM after this show and get you on the beat team if you want.
Let's pass on that.
Let's pass on. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for being here anyway. Next in the house, we have Mr. Everything, as I mentioned a couple weeks ago. He is the owner, the head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and a regular on this show from the Arizona Scorpions, Eddie Gage. Eddie, what's up, bro?
What up, though?
What up, though? Glad to have you in the house. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you for having me.
Yep. Gunny, can you hear me? You know what? I just realized I hardly ever introduce you, but I need to start introducing you before every show. You guys know we do Gunny's Pearls of Wisdom after the recaps and after the previews every week. Gunny, thank you for being here all the time. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Captain.
And our special guest for this evening, the owner of the Denver Nightwings, who now is back to coaching this year, and apparently the entire SFL can tell the difference. Jeremy Vega, welcome to Access Live.
Thanks for having me, Dave. I'm happy to be here. Love the show. Love all your panelists, and I'm excited to get this going. Excited to get to the After Dark special. Yeah,
we seeing the playoffs. That's going to be a lot of fun. But we have business to take care of first, so maybe we should just jump right into it. Let's do that. So, like I mentioned, another amazing weekend. I don't think we've had a bad weekend of games. It's just been an incredible season, a lot of competition, a lot of surprises. I mean, all kinds of stuff going on in season 15 of the SFL. So, on Saturday, we kicked things off with a team that was tied for first place with Jeremy's Nightwings. The Louisiana Revolution traveling to Houston. Frank, the game shows that it was 10 points. Was this game as close as it was, or did Louisiana kind of take care of business over there?
Well, I told y'all on Thursday that this was going to be an exciting game, and it really kind of was an exciting game. The problem was with Houston that every time they tried to claw their way back in, they ran into Streeter. Streeter just broke one and went off. You know, the man had 382 yards rushing on 37 carries, 5 touchdowns.
Wow.
Pickler, again, did not have to do very much. He was 13 of 20, 174 yards, threw 3 interceptions, and 1 pass touchdown to Chase Earl. My buddy Mike Twinscrew, 4 catches for 46 yards, but his contribution mainly was on the returns, 6 kick returns for 126 yards. Warren Murray for Houston did have a good night, 20 carries for 97 yards. Leroy Brown with 2 touchdowns. DR Sims with 2 touchdowns. The problem is, Intez Johnson, 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. And like I said, every time they were getting close and it looked like it was about to be, one of those nail-biting games, Louisiana would pull away with a streeter run.
Yeah. And I mean, I think by far, I don't know if anybody would argue this, but I think by far and away, he's the leading candidate for MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, all that stuff. He's just a machine this season. They scored a combined 80 points. Jack's Data had the over-under at 57.5. So Louisiana and Houston really lit up the scoreboard. They also had Louisiana favored by 3.5, so they covered that. SFL Nation, just so you know, before I even get into the who you gots for this week, I went back and I calculated the who you gots for every single week this season. In week 1, we were 6-5. Week 2, 6-5. Week 3, 7-4. Week 4, 7-4. Week 5 was our only sub 500 week. We were 5-6. Week 6, we went back to 7-4. And last week back down to 6-5. We have not had a week better than 7-4. 6-5, 7-4 kind of seems to be our wheelhouse, kind of our lady jam, if you will. That gives us an overall record of 44-33. Not terrible, but not great. So, kicking things off this week, we chose Louisiana 113-67. So we jump out the gate with a victory in the Who You Got SFL Nation. Moving on to the second game on Saturday, St. Louis at Las Vegas. I've been talking all the time about how Las Vegas is a beast at home. I think they have the number 1 home field advantage in all the SFL, Jeremy, but apparently St. Louis went into Vegas and took care of business, Jeremy. How did Vegas lose their first home game, sorry?
Well, I mean, I'm with you right there. I really thought Vegas was going to win this one just because they're at home. And like you said, they're really tough at home. You have all the main stats on screen that everyone's getting a look at. It just, St. Louis, they're not the best team. They're not a powerhouse team, but they're sneaky good. And I think they kind of proved that going into Vegas and pulling out a win there. Their defense now ranks second in the league in points per game at 20, which is really impressive. And I don't think a lot of people really know that. They're sneaky good. Their offense is 21st in points per game now at 18. So they still have some catching up to do to really balance themselves out, but they can give teams a run for their money. I have a few things that really stood out to me in this game. For starters, Javier Vasquez, 5th game this season with an interception, with 1 interception or less, which is really good for a rookie. This game, he had his 3rd most passing yards in the game at 294. He did take 6 sacks against Fury's defense, but that's kind of normal for the Las Vegas Fury. They got a tough defense. Scott Johnson was brought back down to earth. He had 24 carries for 37 yards, which is only 1.5 yards per carry, and that was his 6th game with 50 yards rushing or less. Rhett Sawyer, 3 sacks back-to-back weeks, 5 tackles for a loss against St. Louis, which is his most in a single game all season. He's got 14 sacks, which is just 0.5 behind Taquan Hale for first place in the league. Great job to St. Louis. They came in, and I think they kind of shocked everybody.
Yeah, I agree with you. And you know what? I think that we all thought maybe Scott Johnson finally got over that hump last week, but apparently that's not the case. And I'm not saying that that's completely on him, but Vegas has got to get him some more yards. Jack's Data had Vegas favored by 7, so they did not cover. But check this out. Jack's Data, 48.5 on the over-under in the 47-point score game. So kudos to Hunter and Jack for that. But I got to tell you, SFL Nation, every time I have hope for you, you got to let me down. I don't know what's up. We chose Las Vegas 127-53, so now we're 1-1 to begin the weekend, moving into the 3rd game on Saturday, which was Vancouver hosting Portland. We've all been high on Portland and London the last few weeks, Eddie Gage, but I mean, let's be honest. Any team going into Vancouver is going to have a tough time, let alone Portland with the season they've been having. Did you expect a closer game, Eddie, or is this kind of how you thought things would pan out?
Not quite exactly. I was anticipating Portland hanging in there for at least a half, but that all changed almost immediately when I believe it was either the first or second play of the game, and Matt South threw an interception, and with that short field, Vancouver capitalized and scored a touchdown just a couple plays later. And I don't know about Portland, but I don't want to speak for them, but to me, as a fan of theirs, it was almost demoralizing because they're struggling to score offensively, or keep their defense off the field, and for that to happen right out of the gate, it just had to be, heartbreaking, especially for a road game playing in Vancouver. So it is a bit demoralizing, and that's probably why like I said, I was looking for the game to be a lot closer for a long time, considering how great their defense has been playing all season long. But for whatever reason, after that interception, it just seemed to knock their sails out of them. They held Tom Pepper in check. He only threw for 117 yards on 20 attempts, and that defense also, forced 3 interceptions, but they could not contain Robert Redford, who went off for 324 big yards, and I believe most of them were like stretch plays toward the outside, and he had an 82-yard TD. He just dominated this game, and by himself in that offensive line, they just took control of this game and ran away with it. It's Portland. They kind of struggled offensively. They only finished with 11 yards rushing. They were only 4 of 10 on third down, and part of that is their inability to run the football. So
yeah.
If they can get those things cleaned up, then it would take a lot of pressure off Matt South, who had a bad day of his own. He threw 4 interceptions. I don't want to speak for Portland, but if I was Portland this year, considering their roster, I would have stripped Truzman of all his animations and start him off as a bronze player and allow him to increase his attributes and work that way. But because he has so many attributes, I believe so many animations, I believe he started the season as a gold player. It's just going to take them too long to improve him, which is why you see other teams, young teams in the SFL starting to, perform better during games because they have their tailbacks with improved progressions, and they can't do that with Truzman right now the way he is. So if I were them, I would have stripped Truzman and allow him to improve on his attributes to help the team more.
Yeah, I think there's a couple different philosophies on that, right? And I completely agree with you in what you're saying. Let's see if I could. Everybody's giving me a hard time in the chat on my math. You know what? So, Cam, I see that you're listening. If you haven't seen, what's that movie with Michael somebody? He's like a house mom or something, and they're talking about doing the electricity for the washer or the dryer and how many currents or whatever. He's like, 220, 221, whatever it takes. So I guess you're probably a little too young for that reference, Cameron Irvine, but that's where that was coming from. So anybody that's my age, I'm sure they got it. Michael Keaton is who I was referring to, just FYI. Let's see. Jack's Data had Vancouver favored by 13.5, and I actually said on Thursday that I thought Vancouver should be favored by at least 2 touchdowns because I think Vancouver's just tough at home. The over-under of 47.5 was within a touchdown for Portland and Vancouver scoring. Are you ready, Cam? 41 points in this game. See, I can count. What do you know? Kendra Hall says, Eddie, your team played good this weekend. I was upset at first, but you guys earned it. Just so you know, people talking in the chat. I'm sorry. Let me see. Who you got? We had Vancouver. Overwhelmingly, 145-33 puts us back in the winner's circle. So we are 2-1 going into the last game on Saturday. This is a game that was a little weird. Look at the time of possession. Chicago with nearly 26 minutes. Jacksonville with under 17. But 5 touchdowns. I mean, when you look at these stats, if you covered these up, Winkler showed this to me today, and you covered up the yards and stuff and just showed the bottom stats, you would guess that the left column team won this game, and it wasn't even close, Coach. Chicago just now I think that's 3 or 4 in a row with all their issues going on in Chicago right now. Is this what they're going to see the rest of the season, you think?
Well, geez, Dave, you took away all my talking points. So
all
I'm
right,
here all
moving on.
week.
Moving on to the next game.
Have a good night. No, I'm kidding. See, Jacksonville's a good team, and hey, water's wet, the sky is blue.
Right.
Jacksonville's a good team, right?
Exactly.
But we're seeing an evolution. We've seen an evolution here with Jacksonville. Maybe not an evolution, but something we didn't see last season. Last season, Christian Christensen didn't need an interception he didn't like. It was all about throwing the ball. And I mean, they slung that sucker all over the place last year, right? Well, we're not doing that as much this year. Jared Willis is quietly having an amazing season. 21 total touches in this game for 180 yards and 4 touchdowns, including a 91-yard rush. You are right. If you covered up the score and just looked at the stats, all right, there's a 100-yard disparity in the rushing yardage. Time of possession, one of my favorite statistics, solidly in Chicago's favor, like you said. There are the 8 sacks for Jacksonville, 2 by our man Mike All, and then, of course, 4 by Tyquan Hale. And those sacks, it wasn't just that they had that many, it was when they happened. Chicago was kind of battling. They looked like they had a chance, and then all of a sudden they were just getting swarmed under, and Jacksonville was on a roll. And so, it's a weird game was a great way to open this thing up. I can't say this is what we're going to see from Chicago the rest of the year, but, this might have happened under any circumstance running into this Jacksonville team.
Bo Martin Jr. in the chat said Jacksonville might be the most complete team in the SFL. I don't think that's true. Coach, where do you stand on that? I think there's some other teams that are more complete than Jacksonville. I'm not saying that they're a bad team, but I don't think they're the most complete team in the SFL. Do you?
Well, I think there's an argument to be made for it. They do have. I mean, everybody's going to have a weakness somewhere. So of course they do, but I'd like to know where you think there's a weakness for them that maybe somebody else doesn't have. They've got they got Ken Gossett, they've got Christian Christensen, Jack Wald. Maybe he doesn't get used a whole lot. He'll be the first to tell you that. The defense is pretty good. I have a hard time seeing a weakness on this team, and I think there's an argument to be made for them being the most complete team.
Well,
they don't always win the championship.
Yeah, isn't Mike All on that team?
Mike All is on that team, and he's all you need. So,
there you go. All right. Chicago at Jacksonville. It was a complete blowout. Hey, and guess what? 41 plus 9 is 50 points. And Jack's data had the over-under at 48.5, so another close one for them. They had Jacksonville only favored by 7.5, which they completely blew out of the water. And look at SFL Nation in the who you got. 145-33 for Jacksonville. 3-1 to open the weekend on Saturday. Could we possibly be en route to our best record this season? Let's check it out. Moving on to Sunday. Atlanta, Arizona. This is one of the 2 games I thought would be game of the week. Frank, I expected more points in this game. I don't know if maybe I was the only one. I'll check Jack's data after you give us your recap, but I just expected more out of this game, especially from Atlanta. What about you?
I did. I expected it to be high scoring, and I did the math, Dave. 362 interceptions so far. We're up to 4.11 interceptions a game, and this game was no different. We had Bryant Dynasty versus Ashley Jackson. Ashley Jackson, 75% completions, 18-24, but only for 172 yards. Her starting receivers, Jacob McCall, Donnie Hands, James Hands, and her tight end, Tiberius Bovine, combined for 5 catches. DJ Moses had 12 catches for 97 yards. He had 29 yards, 29 carries on 76 yards. And, Atlanta was dressed in all white, and when the game was done, they were completely clean because they just went through the DJ Moses spin cycle. I don't know if anybody counted how many times he spun around, but they had a hard time bringing him to the ground. Boo Chisholm had more catches than the entire receiving corps for Arizona. As far as total yards go, 247 to 248. That was real close. Dynasty had 214 yards. 5 interceptions, sacked 6 times. Dynasty had a rough day. Ashley Jackson did what she does, and she, the short yardage, get it to the back, high percentage type throws that Eddie has got her doing, and she just managed the game. Aquanta Shine and Jay Miraculous helped the defense for Atlanta. Miraculous and Blake Hamrick each had an interception. But Anthony Wyo, 5 interceptions on the night. He picked Dynasty off every single time. He had 5 catches, and the entire Scorpion receiving team had 5 catches. So you might need to put him on offense there, Eddie. But hey, Eddie, I picked against you, and what happened? I told you I was going to do it for you. You're welcome. Have a great weekend.
Attaboy, Frank. Way to take credit, buddy. So, actually, let me ask. Hey, since Cam's in the chat, I don't know if he knows, and he can just throw it in the chat, or maybe he can find out and let us know in the After Dark. What's the most receptions by one individual in an SFL game? With Wyo having 5, is that a record? Is it tied? Is he short? Cam, if you can let us know, that would be great. Jack's data had Arizona favored by 3. They triple covered that bad boy. And over-under was 51.5, only 29 points scored in the game. And we do not start Sunday off very well, SFL Nation. In the Who You Got, 99-83. We actually took Atlanta, so we take a loss after a great Saturday. Moving on to the second game on Sunday, my favorite personal game of the week, Lone Star going into Fort Worth, the I-35 shootout rivalry, Eddie Gage. I have lots of things to say about this game. What say you?
Do I must? Dave, I hate to do this with you on the show, but I got to admit, not just this week, but you guys as of late have been playing great football, and they continued again today. You guys came out and just methodically worked your way downfield in the first quarter, put up a field goal, I believe, in that first quarter, scored another 10 points in the second, kept Fort Worth off the scoreboard the entire first half, kept their running game in check, who gave us a hard time, by the way, when we played them, even though we came out with a win. But you kept their running game in check. Xander Go was held in check. He only finished with, he threw 3 interceptions on the day, including 3 touchdowns as well. But you guys just methodically, I don't know what it is about Ace that Charles is doing over there. I haven't talked to him much lately. He's been in the lab, so he's been incognito away from the world, getting you guys offensive playbook clicking. I need to talk to him myself about and get some tips. but man, these last few weeks, you guys have been playing great football. I got to give it to you. You guys dominated time possession, holding the ball, I believe, for 28 minutes. You did what you wanted to. Like I said, you got the run game going, the pass game was going. Ace Finnick was on the money. You guys finished 12 of 19 on third down. You just dominated the football on both sides. Wally had a good game. What can I say, man? I got a bunch of notes in here, but I don't want to blow your head up anymore.
No, hey, listen, it's not my head that's blowing up because, listen, I'm not a scout, I'm not a coordinator, and I'm not a coach. So these guys that put this together, Coach and Charles and Liam and all these guys, they deserve all the credit. Let's see here. Oh, also, Hacker had a good game, though. I don't remember his exact stats, but Hacker had a decent game. I think he had over 100 yards receiving and a couple of touchdowns. And Xander Gold threw for his 100th career touchdown, so that was kind of a good high point for Fort Worth. Jack's data had Fort Worth favored by 7. Obviously, that did not happen. Over under 45.5 with 57 points scored in the game. That's within the 10 points that I think is acceptable for this. And 127-56. No love and no confidence in the Lone Star Glory as Who You Got SFL Nation takes Fort Worth 127-56 to lose 2 games in a row on Sunday. Moving into the third game, Baltimore at Mexico City. Coach, this was actually a little bit of a surprise for me. I think we talked about this on Thursday. We know both teams are good, but everybody was giving the edge to Mexico City and that defense playing at home. What happened?
It's hard to say. Well, I'll tell you one big thing right off the bat. Phoenix Jones got injured after one carry, and so they didn't have a lot of balance in their offense anyway. And they tend to be pass heavy, but when you can't get that extra yard or 2 or 4 with Phoenix, that's going to add up. And it did add up. It added up in the first downs, and it added up in the time of possession. It was close. It was closer than the score might indicate. The yardage was closer than the score might indicate. But you look at that rushing yard, 29 rushing yards for Mexico City. And to me, that's the big difference. They couldn't get enough. They couldn't get enough. They had more sacks. They had more turnovers. Like I said, they were close on the time of possession. Passing yards, they had more. They just couldn't get quite enough out of that running game. And Baltimore capitalized on every opportunity they had.
Yeah, I was really actually looking forward to this game. I expected Mexico City to really step up, and I thought their defense would shut Baltimore down a little more than that. Apparently, that was not the case. Jack's data had Mexico City favored by 3.5. I think most of us did. Over under of 63.5, and that was nowhere near. But I think a lot of that, you're right, it might have had to do with Phoenix Jones going out and some other things going on. Look at SFL Nation, though, back in the win column, 103-77, we took Baltimore. So back in the win column for us. Moving on to Tulsa at Florida. Another game, and I think my exact words on Thursday were, I don't know what to think of this game, Jeremy. And Jeremy, real quick, before you tell me about this game, there was a question in the chat for you from Cam. He's wondering where your dog is because that's the only reason he showed up on the show tonight.
My dog's hiding under his blankets because it's currently snowing in Colorado and it's miserably cold here. So he's taking a timeout for the rest of the night, which is probably where I'm going to be shortly after the show.
After the show, all right. Tell me about this Tulsa, Florida game because, 18 points total scored in the game. Not a great game.
Yeah, all defense. Neither team scored an offensive touchdown. It was all field goals. Some interesting stats that you don't have up on the screen that I would like to touch on is for the first time in a single game, both QBs, Ron Cochran and Deacon Nickens, didn't throw a pick for the first time all season, which congratulations to both of them. This is also the 5th week in a row Gabriel Manning, G-Money, has not scored a receiving touchdown, which is crazy because, obviously he's effective in the special teams, but for a big playmaker, he's kind of being held in check for almost half a season now. DJ Majesty, the linebacker for Tulsa, 19 solo tackles, 3 assists, 1 pass deflection, his best game in terms of total tackles all season. Doyle, his second game over 100 rushing yards this season. He ran more times against Tulsa than he did the last 2 weeks combined. So Alaska really going run heavy this game. They kind of shied away from Ron Cochran, especially since Ron Cochran, for the first time all season, for less than 38 times. So Florida, normally pass-heavy team, went real run-heavy. I don't know if that really affected their offense, which they only ended up kicking field goals. I'm not really sure. I haven't followed Florida too much to be able to make a call like that. But another interesting stat is the last time Florida did not score more than a field goal in a single game was season 14, week 2, when they hosted Jacksonville, probably one of their better rivals. So all in all, it's just a really tough defensive game, and Florida was able to pull it out, and now they're back at 4-4, while Tulsa sits at 3-5.
Yeah, Florida's been grinding out those close games, including an overtime win against us, Lone Star. Jack's data had Florida favored by 6.5. You can't get much closer than that. Over under, though, not Jack's data fault, 48.5, and only scoring 18 points for the game. That's just one of those things. Let's see. We got, look at us, SFL Nation, 2 in a row, 144-44, so 100 more votes for Florida than Tulsa. Keeps us in the win column going into the last game on Sunday, which is Carolina at London. And let me tell you something about this game real quick. First of all, a lot of us picked London to win 2 in a row, defending home field. They were still on a high. And if you're looking at your screen, if you're looking at your graphics, as you can see, Winkler says this could be every game for London if they get Benji some targets, as he picks up a fumble recovery and runs it in for a touchdown. Frank, what a game. Congrats to London, 2 in a row. What did you think about this game?
They're still partying in London. I was one of the ones that said they were going to have the hangover. I apologize, London, and to my boys over there that play for them that I'm friends with. I've been claimed by others as the sexiest tight end and rookie tight end in the league, and Benji, best sounding voice rookie tight end in the league. Still no targets. And where's he? Where's he been? Well, I tell you where he is. He's on special teams. He picks up the fumble. This was a chance for Carolina to get back in the game. They held him. They get the punt. Fumble, he takes it in, and it all broke loose after that. Looking at the passing stats, you look at Richardson with 55 attempts, 39 completions. He's almost 71%, 425 yards. Throws only 2 interceptions, sacked 4 times, 3 passing touchdowns. McDaniel and Prasad combined for 18 catches, 261 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Logan Jack really couldn't get it going. 16 carries for 49 yards. Did catch the ball 7 times for 22 yards. Robert Merrill and Iggy Swift. Iggy Swift had more rushing attempts than Robert Merrill did. He had 11 and Robert had 9, but they only managed 39 yards together. But Iggy Swift did have the 1 rushing touchdown. Fox Highwind came to play. 7 receptions with 124 yards. The other rookie tight end, Dayton Rhodes, has 3 catches and a touchdown. Dustin Zeck, a touchdown. Prasad, Irvine, Davidson Joseph, they did everything they could to keep Carolina in the game. But Tanner Hendricks came strong, 2 interceptions, and Bo Martin, they both combined for 17 tackles, 13 solo. Another good day for London.
Yeah, I'm real happy for London. I think a lot of us are. 2 in a row. I think we're all pulling for Portland to get their second win as well. Real quick, while I'm on this game, I guess I should mention, I heard earlier today from Geraldo Rivera, Harish Watch 2020. We are 2/3 of the way in, and Harish still has a clean bill of health. Ray is on her way to a big prediction coming true. Moving on to the Monday night games. Here's the thing. Sioux Falls going to Queen City, and Eddie, I don't know what to make of Queen City this year. They've got some great wins, but they have some terrible losses. I know Sioux Falls is a good team. Queen City playing at home, though, I thought they would have played a little better. Eddie, what's going on with Queen City this season?
I'm not quite sure. Queen City has always been one of my favorite teams personally to root for.
Yep.
But this season, I'm not sure if it's all the key losses they've had within their front office and coaching, but they just have not played well this season. They started the season up and down, but lately they just been in a free fall, and I can't quite put my finger on it. One thing that does stick out is that they have not been able to get the run game going. This offseason, they drafted, they started the season with 4 offensive linemen, and yet they have yet to get the run game going. It's been a struggle for them all season. I thought by now they may have gotten better production out of the run game with the progression of their offensive linemen, but thus far it just not has happened for them. They moved Jet Zero from fullback to tailback this season, and I thought they would get better production out of their run game with him because, in my opinion, he was a beast last season at fullback, and I think last season I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I believe last season he's had a better season thus far in the season last season than he did this season. So I can't quite put my finger on it. I mean, when you look at the numbers offensively for this game, they finished around the same, but Sioux Falls, they had a more balanced offense. I mean, you know what they're going to do. They're going to give the ball to Colin Hart and Jalen Wells and to everyone else to get the heck out of the way. And when they need a big play, they're going to go to their big money man, Gunner Lewis, which is what they did yesterday early and often. Julian Tyree, I think he threw the ball 23 times, which for him is a lot because, he throws the ball probably less.
Oh, Eddie, we lost you for a second. Oh, I think we lost him altogether. He dropped off the call. Not sure where he was going to finish up, but if he pops in real quick, let me go over the Jack's data while we're waiting for him to jump back in. Jack's data had Sioux Falls only favored by 3.5. That's what I'm saying. I think we all expected a much closer game than this. 3.5, and then over under 51.5. And I mean, you can't get any closer than that with 50 points being scored in the game. I don't see Eddie coming back on, so he might be having some tech issues maybe. Here's the thing, though. I mean, I agree with Eddie. I mean, losing a lot of front office people, losing Nacho, losing Hacker. But, Coach, if Eddie doesn't jump back in, I want you to answer this. We're seeing a lot of players moved from fullback to halfback. Jet Zero, you got Doyle, you've got Phoenix Jones, there's a few more, and they don't seem to be producing very well. Is that just because they need some time to, build up their value at the running back position, or what's the deal with that?
Yeah, I think so. I think you need to give them a season of progression and development there. On average, maybe some of them need more, but I think you need to give them a season to decide whether or not that experiment works.
Yeah,
we've got a couple of converted fullbacks. Williams was a fullback at one point. Now he's a very solid running back. So yeah, I just think it's a matter. You got to give them some time to progress before you can say that's a failed experiment, if you will.
Yeah, Eddie Gage is back with us. Oh, and then he just jumped back out again. Hold on, let me move him back in real quick and see if we can get him. Eddie Gage, can you hear us?
I clicked join voice.
There you go. You're on the air, Eddie.
Okay.
You're back.
Yeah, I'm not. What was the last thing you heard? I lost you.
Well, we ended up. Here's the thing. I'm not exactly sure now because we started talking. I did some of the Jack's data, and then I asked Coach because I was going to ask you this question. Why there's so many guys that were moved from fullback to halfback, like Jet Zero, like Doyle, like Phoenix Jones, that aren't producing at halfback level. Coach's response was basically you need to give them about a season of progression to kind of let them catch up. Do you think that's the case, or do you have a different philosophy on that?
It all depends on where they start the season at. But like I was saying earlier with Truesman, I mean, I don't have Jet Zero's numbers in front of me, but Truesman, I was looking at his numbers earlier, and he started the season off with I think 2 or 3 animations, but his attributes were low. And if I were in charge at Portland, I'm not saying it's the right or wrong thing to do, but in my opinion, I would have stripped him of his animations and worked on his build first, because I think that's paramount. And a lot of times you see people in a rush to get animations when they aren't ready for them yet, and it causes situations like you're seeing this season with Truesman.
Yeah, I ran through the Jack's data, but I didn't get to the who you got yet. So SFL Nation, through Saturday and Sunday, we were 6-3. We go into Monday night. We win the first game to go 1-2. Yeah, we win at 118 to 75. Yeah, look at that. So we took Sioux Falls. So that puts us. Let me just double check the numbers here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6-4. I'm sorry. So 6-4 going into the last game. And I'm hoping we can get to that 7-4 mark again. I was kind of hoping we could get it to our best record ever, but with 4 losses already, that's not going to happen. The very last game of the weekend, the game that I called the game of the week, it was also the crowd play game of the week. And let me tell you, Coach, it did not disappoint at all.
No, it didn't. Although I have to say, these interesting games should not be crowd play games because my attention is divided, trying to win some money here. Not enjoy the game. No, I'm kidding. This was a great game, and it's another one. Obviously, you look at the stats. Well, they're pretty darn close. The key one, and here's the big point. I looked on the website today, and I was going to try to confirm this, but I wasn't able to. It says Denver had 22 first downs, and Charleston had 1. Now, hopefully, somebody can give me the if that's in fact correct. That is amazing.
I'm going to assume that's a typo, unless Jeremy can jump in and knows exactly if that's the case. Jeremy, did you hold Charleston to 1 first down, or do you think that's a typo on the website?
Heck yeah, we did. I'm just kidding. If it's not a typo on the website, then likely what it is they picked up first downs. Or no, I don't know. It's got to be a typo because I really feel like they've had a few plays where they easily picked up a first down.
Okay.
So my guess is it's a typo.
Okay, there you go, Coach.
I thought that was probably the case. Like I said, I was watching the game, but I wasn't watching that. I did know that Charleston did have a couple, like their first touchdown was a long one. They had a couple of short field situations. So I thought, I guess it's possible. Regardless, even with that, regardless of what that number is, assuming the 22 first downs is correct for Denver, that's a big number. That's a big, important number. They did really well. Everything else being pretty close, other than the rushing yards, fantastic job on Swearingen, by the way. Fantastic job. This was a game a couple of times you felt like it was going to swing one way or the other. I'm sure Charleston feels sick about it because they had their chances. Fantastic game, though. And to go into Charleston and win, I know their record doesn't look like what we expected. This is still a legit team. And if they make it in the playoffs, they're going to scare people.
Yeah, and the hero of the game, once again, I think for the third time this season, if I'm not mistaken, Kramer Jackman with a long game-winning field goal at the end of the game.
Yeah, he's going to be even more insufferable than he usually is on that one.
Hey, that's all right. That's Jeremy's problem, not ours. So
yeah.
Jack's data on the money. They had this game as a pick-em, and that's exactly what it was. They came right down to the wire. Over under 57.5. They were a little low at 49, but within that 10-point margin. And here we go. Let's see. 1, 2. Yep. It looks like we end week 8 on a win, SFL Nation. Who you got? 141 to 54. So that puts us at 7-4 for the week. No. Yep, 7-4. Sorry, I was trying to squeeze an 8-3 in there, but I couldn't do it. Apparently, numbers don't lie, math doesn't lie, and if anybody would back me up on that, it would be Jack's data. That's the recap for week 8. Gunny, are you ready? Are you good to go?
I'm good.
All right, you can start whenever you are ready.
Good evening, SFL Nation. This week's home field advantage was 6 wins to 5 losses. Some chart toppers we have this week with 4-game win streak: Denver, Louisiana, and Jacksonville. The longest losing streaks right now: Chicago and Houston with 3 losses. The top of the charts moving between teams in 6th place at 5-3, Mexico City. We have 6 teams at 4-4, 8 teams at 3-5. The highest standings chart moved up the best. Lone Star moved up 7 spots. St. Louis moved up 5 spots. The teams that went down the most, a couple at -3, Chicago, Las Vegas, and Charleston and Queen City all went down 3 spots. These are going to be some good games coming up this week. Playoffs are still in sight for everybody. And with that, that is all.
Thank you, Gunny. Appreciate it. Yeah, the power rankings and the standings, a lot of movement this weekend, and we're going to talk about that in the After Dark portion when Cam comes on to break down the playoff situations. But before we get to that, you know what's next. We need to have our Week 8 Diva of the Week nominees. Coach, I'm going to start with you. It was quite a few candidates, but a lot of different reasons this week. Who is your Week 8 Diva of the Week nominee, Coach?
My nominee, listen, okay, Diva moment, it's about a moment, okay? So you can have a good game, you can have the stat. My nominee has the stats, but it's about that one shining moment where he out-diva'd everyone else. It's Jared Willis, 180 total yards, but the Diva moment was at the end of that 91-yard touchdown where he just kind of strutted across the goal line. Yeah. And unlike previous attempts made by other players, he didn't screw it up and spin around and go the other way and get tackled. He got in the end zone and scored.
Or fumble the ball before he crossed the goal line, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was, it goes from Diva moment to dork moment when you do that.
Exactly.
He completed the moment. He's my Diva of the Week.
Okay. Eddie Gage, who is your Week 8 Diva of the Week nominee? Oh, did we lose Eddie again?
No, I'm here.
Okay.
We got Jeremy on the line, and I hate to do this because his head is also big as yours. But man, I mean, Yes, last night was absolutely the game of the week. You got Charleston and Denver going back and forth all day. And in the end, I thought Charleston was going to find a way to pull it out. They had to settle for a field goal, and Denver got the ball with, I forget how much time left. And I thought they were going to, play it conservative and go for go for overtime. And sure enough, Giacomo Jones, who normally is Denver's 10-yard out route king on play action, suddenly is streaking downfield on a 9 route and catches the defense napping. And all of a sudden, they called their last timeout, and in comes Kramer Jackman for, I believe it was a 55-yard field goal.
Yep.
And buries it. And not only did he drill it, if you look at the replay, the football actually hit the bottom of the net, meaning he could have hit that thing from about 60. As much as Jeremy gets on my last nerve,
Oh, we lost you, Eddie. Oh, we lost him. I think we got the point, though. All right, moving on. And I agree with that. I mean, that was just a great game, a great ending to a great game. Frank, moving on to you now. Your Week 8 Diva of the Week nominee is who?
All right, I've got to take a little trip down memory lane first before I name my Diva of the Week. And I'm going to apologize to my Vegas family right off the bat. But going back to the SFL, top-ranked Ottawa and third-ranked Annapolis, my Annapolis team, battling it out. And with 3 seconds left, Amy Shalizzi kicks a walk-off field goal to win the game. Semifinals, after the catch by Art Vandelay in overtime, Amy Shalizzi beats Annapolis again in the semifinals. And now, this past week, walk-off fashion, ice cold blood in her veins, she nails a field goal and kills the Vegas family with another field goal. She has beaten me 3 times in a row on walk-off field goals, so she is my Diva of the Week.
Wow, she has got your number, bro, apparently. Let's see. Let's move on to Jeremy Vega. Jeremy, who is your Week 8 Diva of the Week nominee?
Well, first of all, I want it to be known I did not boot Eddie out of the conversation. Okay, that wasn't me. That wasn't me.
Well, of course, now why he's talking about your boy, right?
Yeah, exactly. So my Diva of the Week is definitely Anthony Wayo. Frank did a really good job of breaking down his stats. 5 interceptions in one game. I know there's other Divas nominees who have incredible games statistically, but everybody's really got to think about this one. Think back to the last time a defensive player on your team in the secondary had 2 interceptions. Think back to a time a defensive player in your secondary had 3 interceptions in one game. And if by some miracle you can think of a player in your secondary that walked away with 4 interceptions in one game, great. But Anthony Wayo, and I have no idea how the stars aligned perfectly for this kid, 5 interceptions in one game. It's next to impossible. He's absolutely Diva of the Week.
Yeah, that was amazing, and I'm hoping when Cam comes in after dark, maybe he's got the answer to if that's an SFL record or not. In the meantime, Gunny, who is your Week 8 Diva of the Week nominee?
Well, you know Gunny loves defense, so this week he loves Taquan Hale out of the Jacksonville Kings. He's been with the Kings or Tallahassee Pride since season 10. He had 6 tackles. All of his tackles were for losses. 4 of those were sacks. 1 was half a sack. Outstanding. That is my player of the week.
Okay. As you know, we have at least 7, sometimes 8 Diva of the Week nominees. Before I get to mine, Eagle, are you going to say yours? And I need to find out if Winkler's going to come on and say his. Eagle, if you're available, it looks like you are. Who is your Diva of the Week, Week 8 nominee?
Yeah, I'm here. So my nomination was picked after the first game on Saturday. I'm going with Reggie Streeter. I watched one game this weekend to figure out my Diva of the Week. He ended up with 382 rushing yards, and 5 touchdowns. I mean, Jeremy hit on Wyo with 5 interceptions when the last time you saw somebody with 5 interceptions. It's the same thing with a running back, 5 touchdowns. I mean, he averaged 10.3 yards a carry, so he was a first down per carry. So Reggie is my diva of the week for this weekend.
Gotcha. Okay. And then Winkler is actually busy right now, but I'm going to go ahead and say his before I say mine. And he said I put mine on the graphic. So if you look at the London game and you see the picture of Benji Matson, you'll see the special teams recovery, I believe it was, for a touchdown. He is saying that is a diva moment. And so Benji is his Week 8 Diva of the Week nominee. I'm actually going to go a little different route. I don't remember who it was, which one of you said about a diva moment. I think it might have been Frank. And here's the deal. I agree. We need a diva. Diva of the week, different from player of the week. Player of the week is a lot about stats. Diva of the week is about that diva moment. And I got to give it up to, even though we beat them, I got to give it up to Xander Gold. He didn't have the best game. He did throw 3 picks, but as a congratulations for his 100th SFL passing touchdown, Xander Gold is going to be my Week 8 Diva of the Week nominee. So there are 8 nominations this week, I believe. Eagle will have the poll up for you to vote on in the Access Live server sometime tonight. You guys usually have till Thursday afternoon, evening to get your votes in. So let your teams know, tell your locker rooms, vote for your players, and vote for your friends and who you think is the actual Diva of the Week for Week 8. Moving on into the After Dark portion of the show. Sometimes we open up the After Dark portion to questions and comments about different things, and we've talked about a million different things on this show. Recently, we've kind of just set it aside for something very particular, like last Thursday with Tom Rahman and Rochelle Colston coming on talking about their expansion bid. Well, tonight we have a treat. Cameron Irvine, the commissioner of the SFL, is coming on in the After Dark portion to break down for us and talk about the playoff picture, the playoff rules, and what we should expect over the next 4 weeks. Cam, welcome to the show. Oh, you're muted.
What it do, Dave?
There you go. What it do? Is that your version of what up, though?
Yes. I'm getting it all on T-shirts. They're going to outsell Eddie. I'm going to monopolize this thing.
I look for it.
Negative.
I'll look for it in Sector 6. Cam, I don't know if you're in front of a computer or not, but the first graphic that I put up was the playoff tiebreakers in order of importance. Did you want to start there, or did you want to start somewhere else?
That sounds great, Dave.
Okay, knock yourself out. The floor is all yours.
All right, so basically, just a quick explanation of what. Oh, look at that! Spoilers. Sioux Falls in 5th. What each one of them mean?
Oh, terrible! Oh no.
So
look at that! Look at that! There you go. How about that? There you go. Sorry.
when you have 2 teams that if one team is beating another and those are the only 2 teams tied, then that always applies. But if there are 3 or more teams tied, it's important to note that you have to beat them all for the tiebreaker to apply. So just throwing out random examples. If Lone Star beats one team but doesn't beat another, it's like cherry picking which game is more relevant, right? Oh, well, we beat so and so. Well, you didn't beat the other team, so because of that, nobody's able to put that. Another spoiler.
What'd you do?
Nope.
Where's another spoiler? Not my on my
12 and 13 popped
Where?
up. It was I can't tell you that.
Oh, I
can't
don't see it on my end.
Oh,
you must. You know what? You must be
second.
behind. You must be behind. I
think
took
I
all
am.
that stuff out. Stop telling everybody. Some people aren't looking. Dang,
Sorry.
you're spoiling the spoil.
It really sucks when people point out all your flaws and they only happen for a short second.
Oh, well, I have a whole list for you for the after dark portion.
Amazing. So anyway, if you're tied with 3 or more teams, you have to sweep all the teams that you're tied with, or if you lose to all those teams, you're automatically slotted at the bottom. things like that. Common games just means that, have you played the same opponents? So if Arizona and Lone Star have both played St. Louis, Baltimore, and Florida, as long as there's 3 games, at least that tiebreaker can apply. So you would take a look at the record of against just those teams when trying to determine who's the best team. If 2 teams have the same record, then automatically either the third team is either slotted at the bottom or slotted at the top, depending, if they obviously have a better or worse record than the other 2 teams. Strength of victory just means the record of the opponents that you've beaten. That is important, especially maybe a little bit earlier in the regular season, only because so basically it's not as important as common games, but only because we've only played 2/3 of a season. So a lot of these tiebreakers don't have 3 common opponents yet, but they will by the end of the season, right? So so you'll see a lot of strength of victory coming into play tonight, maybe more so than you might see at the end of the season. Strength of schedule is the record of all of your opponents, whether you've beaten them or not. You'll see a common theme is teams at the very bottom of the standings will end up having quite a difficult strength of schedule, like Portland, for example, and teams at the very top may have a kind of a very weak strength of schedule, like maybe Louisiana. And a lot of times that's just because of the dramatic swing in their records, right? So Louisiana's strength of schedule is going to be probably not the best in the league because they have beaten 7 different teams, thus weakening their strength of schedule because all their opponents have lost to Louisiana, and then vice versa on the Portland side. So there's a few gems, like Baltimore, for example, has a very good strength of schedule despite their record. And that shows you that despite their very difficult schedule, they have had a very good season. Point differential, simple. It's just points for, points allowed. That almost never applies. I think it's applied once ever because we couldn't determine tiebreaker any other way. And then if for whatever reason that's tied, it goes to top wins. So, for example, Mexico City beating Louisiana would be the top win for their team, and that would trump anybody else's top win because Louisiana is the current number 1 seed. And then if for whatever reason both of those teams have beaten Louisiana, then how much did you beat Louisiana by would be the final tiebreaker. And if we still can't break a tie after that, we just put the 2 team owners on the street and we record a street fight, and whoever wins the street fight gets the playoff spot.
I want to start a petition to reverse the order of these and go with the street fights right from the beginning. I think that's the way that we should settle everything in this league.
Money's on Chisholm, and for whatever reason, Tim Johnston. We don't know what he's capable of, and it could get messy real quick.
You never know.
Vultures could ascend from the sky and just start picking at the corpse.
Oh, and what about teams that have like 2 and 3 owners? I mean, then that's not a fair fight. I mean, come on.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, what do you do with Colin? He'd just run your ass over.
Oh yeah, he would absolutely run our ass over.
Can I say that on this show?
Yeah, you can. Yeah. Well, you're in the After Dark portion, so it's okay.
There you go.
Hey, real quick, I want to tell everybody in the chat, if you have, as we go through these, if you have questions or comments for Cam or for any of us about what we're talking about tonight, put it in the chat at Winkler, and he'll make sure he gets it to me, and I'll get it to Cam or whoever it's directed to. Okay, so you ready to move on, Cam? We're going to start showing teams?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay, and I'm going to ask you a couple questions about some of these. So I actually want to start with the top because I think everybody knows a few of the teams at the top. The harder stuff is the teams at the bottom, right? So let's start with the teams at the top. And there is your top 5 official playoff teams as of today. Louisiana first with a common games edge over Denver as the 2 seed. And then you've got Jacksonville at 3, which I was actually surprised. I thought they would be behind Baltimore and Sioux Falls. So the common games for Jacksonville, they beat Baltimore. Is that what I'm looking at? Or they beat teams that Baltimore lost to?
So actually, okay, there it is. Okay. So the common games between Jacksonville and Baltimore currently are Atlanta, Charleston, Carolina, and Vancouver. Jacksonville has beaten all 4 of those teams, and Baltimore lost to Atlanta in week 1.
Oh, that's
that
right.
is the difference. So again, they have more than 3 common opponents, but the only reason why that tiebreaker comes into play is because in the 3-way tie, Sioux Falls worst they had the worst strength of victory. Actually, that should say apologies, it's a typo. Worst strength of victory for Sioux Falls.
Okay.
Among the 3 teams. So those 3 teams, I mentioned those 4 teams: Atlanta, Charleston, Carolina, Vancouver, are the common games for Baltimore and Jacksonville. Well, Sioux Falls did not have those. Sioux Falls only played Atlanta and Charleston. But if you note, this week Sioux Falls plays Vancouver, right? So after this week, those 3 teams would have 3 common opponents, and we could look at the records of how Sioux Falls did in that scenario. So you can see that things change every week. So just because you're losing a tiebreaker this week doesn't mean you might lose it in the end. But it's important to note that Sioux Falls, the 3-way tie was broken because they had a worse strength of victory, and then Jacksonville and Baltimore were able to use common games because they have not met. They have not played head-to-head. So common games is that next tiebreaker, and Jacksonville has the sweep on that at the moment.
Gotcha. Let me open it up to the panel real quick. Coach, Eddie, I think Frank is still with us. Even, Gunny, Jeremy, anybody. You guys see any surprises in these top 5 or the order of these top 5? Anybody want to jump in?
The way this is Eddie. The way Cam just broke it down makes it easy to understand, because I too at first thought that Baltimore should have been ahead of Jacksonville, but when he explains, the scenario, how it breaks down, if there's a tie, then it makes sense.
Right. Anybody else? No? I'm surprised Coach isn't talking about, or Gunny talking about their Sioux Falls not being number 1. I know that.
Well, I can't argue with his logic. I mean, looking at it, it makes perfect sense.
Louisiana and Denver have 3 common opponents right now: London, Portland, Baltimore. Louisiana swept those 3, and Denver lost to Baltimore.
Lost to Baltimore, exactly. Okay.
Can I get a recount on that?
Sioux Falls is going to move up when they play Vancouver this week.
I was just about to ask Gunny what he thought about his Sioux Falls team sitting in 5th right there. I don't know if
they're in the playoffs. They're ready.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Let me see if there's any questions in the chat from anybody about this. Benji, no. There's a question about Jeremy's hair, but we'll save that for later, since it doesn't actually have to do with this. Okay, Cam, anything else you want to touch on this before we move on to the bottom half?
No, I just want to say Jeremy's one of those people that you question whether he has hair, but you can never remember. There's something unforgettable about his head. I don't know what that is.
I don't know.
You have hair, Jeremy?
I'm pretty sure he's got hair.
Yeah, I have hair. That's actually like the first time I've ever heard that. People usually just can't forget how attractive I am. Not my word.
Jeremy tonight.
Oh, jeez. I don't know. Yeah, it's I think I didn't even recognize his voice earlier. It's been so long since I had talked to him. I had to double check and make sure it was him. All right, let's see. Moving to the bottom half of the playoffs. Let's see if there's any surprises here. I already see one. And there's your 6 through 11 and your 2 teams that are on the cusp. So let's take a look. Mexico City at 5-3 in the 6th seed. Apparently no tiebreakers needed since they have a better record than the 4-4 teams. Then we've got the 4-4 logjam, 7 through 11. So Cam, here's probably where most of your questions are going to be. Lone Star at 4-4. Now I know we beat Arizona and we beat St. Louis, but we lost to Florida and we lost to Vancouver. So I'm assuming they had dropped out of the common opponents before we got to that point. So you got Lone Star, Arizona, St. Louis, Florida, and Vancouver, all teams that have beat each other. I'm sure this was a lot of fun to figure out, these 4-4 teams. And then you've got Chicago, barely on the outside looking in. 4-1 just a few weeks ago, dropping to 4-4, but still in that logjam. And then Charleston dropping that game to Denver last night at 3-5. Cam, talk to us about this 4-4 logjam. What a pain, huh?
Yeah, this was at the point of the night where I questioned whether I should have been doing this, and I thought, well, you know what? I think it would be good. I think it'd be good to get everyone familiar with with what's going on. So I toughed it out and kind of went through it, even though none of it will matter probably by the end of the regular season. So you got 6 teams. Obviously, that's pretty rough. So the first thing you do is, well, if to win a head-to-head tiebreaker, someone would have had to have beaten all of these teams. Now, of course, that didn't happen.
Right.
It would almost never happen in a 6-way tie. So you move on from that. Then you look, okay, well, do these 6 teams have 3 common opponents? Of course not. It's almost impossible. Now, at the end of the season, is it possible? Yeah, but in a 6-way tie, it almost never happens, right? You need probably the max a 4-way tie for anything like that to be analytically possible, right? So there's just too much. So then you go to strength of victory and you look at all those numbers and you have to eliminate somebody. So Chicago and Vancouver have the lowest strength of victory, 375 right now. So because of that, the tiebreakers for them start over. Right now, I have to break the Chicago-Vancouver tie because they have the same strength of victory. So, right. So they haven't played each other, and they don't have at least 3 common opponents right now. Their strength of victory is the same. So then it goes to strength of schedule. And Chicago's schedule has been easier to this point, 479, than Vancouver's 542. That's why Chicago is outside the red bar, and Vancouver is in. So now we have broken that tiebreaker because we can put Vancouver back in the 5-way tie, but we'll just end up right back where we were, right?
Right.
With Vancouver and their lowest strength of victory of the 5 teams remaining. So now there are 4 teams remaining: Lone Star, Arizona, St. Louis, and Florida. We still don't have enough common opponents between those 4 teams, and we still don't have a sweep. Remember, Lone Star beat Arizona and St. Louis, but they did not beat Florida. Right. So Florida being in that tiebreaker, it hurts Lone Star possibly. In this particular weekly scenario, it did not, because Florida has the weakest strength of victory of the 4 teams remaining. So they are slotted 10th. Now you get to the point where a head-to-head can actually apply. Lone Star swept. They beat Arizona and they beat St. Louis. So that's it. Lone Star gets slotted 7th because head-to-head is the number 1 tiebreaker. So they sweep it. Now, Arizona and St. Louis, neither one of those teams have lost to the other 2, right? Arizona lost to Lone Star but didn't play St. Louis. St. Louis lost to Lone Star but didn't play Arizona, right? So there's no head-to-head sweep loss there.
Right.
So now it's just between 8 and 9. They don't have any. They don't have enough common opponents, so it goes to strength of victory, and Arizona beats them there, and that is 7 through 12.
That does not sound like something you should be doing late at night. I'm just saying.
No. But outside the typo on Sioux Falls there, I think.
No, it looks pretty. No, it looks really good. There's actually a question for you, Cam. But before we get to that, I'm going to go to the panel real quick. I'm going to go to everybody, and just a quick, as you glance at this, Coach. What stands out to you? Are there any surprises in this 6 through 13 graphic?
Yeah, I was surprised we were 7. Holy crap!
Yeah, me too. I agree with that. Eagle,
again, the logic makes sense, but wow.
And this is going to change. I mean, there's still so much room for this to change. Eagle, are you still in here? Did you want to comment on this, or did you leave?
No, I'm still here. I'm going to say Florida is the most surprising to me because they're the last team in this group to have a win. So it's good that they've turned their season around.
Eddie Gage, what stands out to you?
Arizona is going to have to fight really hard because we have a brutal rest of the season versus some quality opponents, including Baltimore and Sioux Falls and Vancouver. So we're gonna have to bring our A game, and whoever the coach is of that offense, he needs to get it figured out and figured out quickly.
Whatever his name is. Frank, are you still with us, or did you take off? I think Frank left. Gunny, what do you think about this 6 through 13 graphic we're looking at?
Well, I'm excited to see Lone Star at 7. We beat the 8th and 9th, but we lost the 10th and 11th, so
Yep.
I believe they'll be changing again next week.
Yeah, and that's where a overtime close loss to Florida could really hurt us over the next few weeks as the seeding changes around. Jeremy Vega, what about you?
I'm really surprised at St. Louis sitting at 9. They had a lot of doubt against them coming into the season with a lot of their players leaving, having to draft a lot of rookies. They're a super young team, but sitting at 4-4 with new coaches as well, they're having a great season.
Yeah, they really are. Cam, here's a question for you from Truceman21. Who is the team near the bottom of the playoff bracket that you think could give Louisiana or Denver a run for their money?
Well, I think I think all of them could really. St. Louis's defense is brutal, just brutal. Arizona's defense is brutal. Those are some tough teams to compete against. Lone Star, very unique team, tough to game plan for. Vancouver was just in Louisiana and lost by 14, but if you watch the game, couple of turnovers late down in the red zone. Reggie, if they contained Reggie Streeter a bit more, just a couple more times, they're possibly in that game. And Mighty's won 3 championships, so I think it's anybody's game to win. And I think an important note here for anybody that's under the cut line, especially all the 3 and 5 teams. There's 7 of them, by the way. Charleston has the best strength of victory of any team in the league right now.
Wow.
At 583. So all Charleston has to do, if Charleston wins 3 of 4, they will probably make the playoffs because they're at 6-6 is the log jam. 6-6 is going to be all about strength of victory, almost certainly, because there's going to be 3, 4, 5 teams 6-6, just because the league is so competitive. You can see it now at 4-4 with 6. So if you're 6-6, you better have a tiebreaker that's awesome. And Charleston has one, right? That means that the other 3 and 5 teams don't have it because they have it. So and now Charleston has to be careful here because they've got a couple of snoozers as well in terms of opponent record that could drag down that strength of victory, right? The next couple of teams they play, sub 500. So if they win those games, that strength of victory is going to get pulled down, and it's not necessarily going to help them in that tiebreaker. So something to consider. But if you're 3 and 5 right now, you should really think about winning out because 6-6, it's up to the gods, right? At that point. And if you have beaten someone, start cheering for them because it's only going to help your strength of victory the more they win. Right. So that's key. Like if you're Lone Star, cheer for Florida. Doesn't cheer for Florida because the more they win, cheer for Arizona and St. Louis because the more they win, the better your strength of victory will get.
Right. We don't want Florida because they've got the head-to-head against us. Right.
So obviously not everyone can lose. So if you're a team out there that's in the thick of it, you want those things on your side, and you want to pay attention to your opponents down the stretch. Who are the common games? What games are going to matter? And if you're looking for a signature win, go out and beat a team in the top 5. Because if you can go out and beat a team in the top 5, your strength of victory shoots up, and now all of a sudden you're in a much better position. So a lot of teams at 3 and 5 right now that can't give up. Even London at 2 and 6, they can't give up. Their strength of victory is 438. Not bad. For having 2 wins, not bad. And so, even London there at 2 and 6 has that, miracle shot to be 6 and 6 get in. You just never really know. They got Houston this week. They got St. Louis the next week. That's a rivalry game. Then they host Baltimore, but they are home, and then they're at Carolina. You just never know who gets hot. But yeah, if you're 3-5, you definitely shouldn't be relying on 6-6. It's possible, but really should be in win-out mode from this point.
Yeah, when I was reading that question to you, the very first team that stuck out to me is Charleston. Charleston is a team I would not want to play in the playoffs. They are by far the best 3-5 team I've seen in quite a while. I'm actually going to ask the panel if they have any questions for you, Cam, in a second. But before I get to them, Ryan Owens has a question in the chat, and he's wondering, as you rank the tiebreakers, why is strength of victory above strength of schedule? What's the thought process there is what he's asking.
So number one, ask the NFL, because these are NFL tiebreakers and we're just not gluttons for punishment. Number two, strength of victory is like a resume. What's your resume, right? What is the best thing that you've done, or what are the best things that you've done? And one thing that's important for the playoffs is, can you prove that you can beat any of the teams you're about to play, right? If you've shown that you have beaten some of the best, then that shows that you belong. If you've won 6 games and all 6 of your wins are against sub 500 competition, you have not proven that you belong. And every time that you play a team that's tough, you can't get the W, right? And so that's why strength of victory is so important. Now, strength of schedule shows how difficult of a season you've had, right? If you're in a 6-6 spot with another team, strength of schedule, having a much better strength of schedule shows that you have kind of been put through the gauntlet more so than another team. For example, Baltimore has a strength of schedule of 531, whereas Sioux Falls has a strength of schedule of 427, meaning that Baltimore has actually played a much tougher schedule up to this point than Sioux Falls. So in that case, you would look at the Vultures and say, well, we all have the same record. Everyone's beaten the same type of teams, but Baltimore's been through it, a little bit more than Sioux Falls has. And so it's almost kind of like a tip of the cap to, hey, you had a rough schedule, here you go. But that strength of victory is you went out and you beat somebody, and some teams that were pretty decent, and shows that you belong. So that's why it's over strength of schedule.
Truceman21 in the chat. It's actually a question directed towards me, but I want to open it up to the entire panel as well as Cam. He's asking, who in the top playoff bracket do you think is an imposter, and who at the bottom is really a top team hiding at the bottom? Well, we kind of covered a little bit of that on the bottom part. I'm actually just going to run through it. Let's tackle the bottom portion question first, starting with Coach. I personally think it's Charleston. I think Charleston's going to get in there, and I think they're going to cause some damage. Coach, what do you think?
Well, the easy answer is yes to say Charleston. I'm going to say Vancouver, though, as possible as well. They're in the playoffs there, but obviously they're right at the bottom of it. We know they can score when things get rolling. So I'm going to say Vancouver's possibility. Okay. But Charleston, that kind of low-hanging fruit. That's a really good team.
They are a really good team. Eagle, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with Coach. You could easily say Charleston, but I'm gonna say Vancouver will be higher come playoff time. I mean, I would love for St. Louis to be up there, but I think Vancouver will be up there towards the end.
Okay, Eddie Gage.
I'm not going to include my own team. That would just be totally biased. But I want to throw Mexico City in that mix. I don't know if you consider those top or bottom or what have you, because they're sixth. But I would have loved to see how that game had played out had Phoenix Jones not got hurt versus Baltimore.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, Cam, before I move on to Frank and Gunny with the same question, because there's 11 teams, is it the top 3 are getting buys? Is that how it's working?
Top 5. That's how
these are all buys. This is how it would set up. Okay.
Yeah. So the wild card games are 6-11, 7-10, 8-9.
Gotcha. Okay. So right now we'd have a rematch with Florida, which I would love to have. Frank, Are you back with us, or are you still gone? Nope. Okay. Gunny, what about you? What about this bottom team that you think these bottom 6 teams or 8 teams, I'm sorry, that should be in the top 5 maybe?
I'm looking at some of these playoff teams that missed the playoffs last year. For example, Arizona and Florida both missed out on the playoffs last season. So
you're looking at Arizona and Florida? Nope, I think I lost Gunny at the end. Jeremy, what about you?
Easy, the 3-time.
Say that one more time. Couldn't hear you.
I said the 3-time Florida.
Oh, Florida. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they're a different Florida team this year, though. I don't know. Cam, what do you think about that question?
Golly, I really don't want to say it.
Don't be political, Cam. Give us the real.
It's after
trying
dark.
to give it to you for real, but God, Axis is so insufferable. Lone Star, they're just different. They're just different. That on the road at Fort Worth game was impressive. It was impressive. They've shown they can play in a shootout. They've shown they can play in a 20-10 bore fest. They've shown they can do a lot of different things. St. Louis is, I think, the most fascinating team because their offense is so young. But you know, I think Lone Star is probably, if you were to ask Charles, I think he's out kicking his coverage. I think you guys are having a better season than maybe you would have hoped and expected. You know, so enjoy the ride. So it's interesting. The game, the crowd play game this week against Mexico City is going to be a lot of fun.
That's actually going to be a really good game. We're looking forward to it. Starting back at the top, Coach, with you for the top half of the question. Let me pull the graphic up real quick, or at least part of it. There you go. Any of these top 5 teams you think are what Truceman 21 called imposters, or at least should you think they'll drop into the bottom picture?
All right, everybody's going to think, because I gave him so much crap last year.
I knew it.
Everyone's going to think it's a Pickler thing. I'm off my Pickler thing. I like the guy. But I think if anybody is, it's Louisiana. And it's not fair. They've got a hell of a coach. Oh, wait, they had a hell of a coach. Now they've still got good coaches. I got to go with them. They're the contender out of those to fall out.
Okay. Eagle, what about you?
Yeah, I feel like following Coach back to back hasn't been great, but going the same way. Johnny has the easiest job in the SFL. 2 to 3 step drop, handing the ball off to Reggie. But again, I don't see him falling out of the top 5, but if there was somebody to fall out of the top 5, I would say it would be Louisiana. And I do like everybody on Louisiana as well.
Eddie Gage?
I'm going to give you a couple different answers. Number one, well, this is in no order, but I got a couple different teams. Louisiana, because they're just so one-dimensional on offense. And if you can find a way to contain their run game, you have a shot. Pickler, when asked to throw the ball in 3rd and long situations, has thrown interceptions this season. He's thrown more this season already than he has last season, despite the fact he has the same coaches. So I don't know, man. I mean, they did handle Baltimore, though. I got to give them that. I got to give them credit where credit due. They manhandled Baltimore. So I got to give them that credit. Also, speaking of which, Baltimore, for whatever reason, for the past several seasons, seemed to dominate throughout the regular season, and then they're one and done come playoff time. I can't figure out why that is. I haven't, researched or anything like that, so I can't claim to know anything. But they seem to dominate during the regular season, then come playoffs, they're out in the first round or whatever their first game is. So I don't know. Sioux Falls, I love that team. I love their offensive philosophy. They do it with the run and pass, but they love their power run game more so than any other team in the SFL, with the exception of maybe Louisiana. So I guess that makes my and Jeremy, man, I hate to give this guy praise, but he has the most difficult offense to prepare for me because it goes against his offense goes against everything that I like to do offensively. I mean, when I say everything, I mean everything. I played him earlier this season, and I was so focused on stopping play action, and I did a great job at that, but got beat everywhere else. So, I my answer would be Baltimore and Louisiana, but you just never know.
Okay. Frank, are you back with us, or is he gone altogether? I think he might be gone. He's not answering. Gunny, what do you think about these top 5 teams? Any of them pretenders?
I like them all.
That is all.
But I think Louisiana has the easiest schedule from what I looked at.
Okay. Jeremy Vega.
Louisiana.
Why?
Just they got a couple of tough games down the stretch at Jacksonville, at Florida, Baltimore, Sioux Falls, Jacksonville. They've all proved that they're gonna be the top teams. They are every season. So if I had to pick somebody, it's Louisiana for sure.
Before I get to Cam, I just got to say, every week, everybody seems to be underestimating Louisiana, and to their credit, they're playing the teams that are in front of them and they're beating them. Everybody bets against them almost every week, and yet they keep winning games every week. Cam, what do you think about this top 5?
All right, so I'm going to get a little analytical here, just because otherwise I'll be in trouble. But I'm probably already going to be in trouble anyway because I'm about to put Jeremy on blast for a second.
Oh, great! So, well, I'm glad we're recording.
Here's your After Dark segment.
There you go.
Okay, Denver has gotten flack in the past for having a quote weak schedule or whatever, right? And so at the beginning of the season, Denver had. These were the playoff teams on Denver's schedule: Atlanta, Baltimore, I'm talking about from last season, Charleston, Queen City, and Chicago. Okay? 4 of those teams are now outside the playoffs this season: Atlanta, Charleston, Queen City, and Chicago. They're all on the outside looking in. So all of a sudden, Denver has the worst strength of schedule, 396 of any of these top 5.
Mm-hmm.
And the one team that was in the playoffs last year and is in the playoff picture currently this year is Baltimore, which was their one loss. So all I'm saying is Denver just has to keep winning because Denver has, compared to some of the other teams, an easier slate down the stretch. Queen City, Chicago, a couple of playoff teams from last season.
And Vegas and Tulsa.
Struggling.
Yeah.
Vegas, Tulsa, a couple of teams that didn't make the playoffs. But Vice Wars is very difficult at Vegas. That's probably maybe the toughest game on their schedule because they have Queen City at home this week. If Denver slips up, they could tumble down the standings because they don't have a ton of tiebreakers in their favor. So Louisiana is in the best position to kind of keep them out of that number 1 seed. But as far as I'm concerned right now, it's Denver's destiny to number 1, but they have to take care of business because everyone's going to be gunning for them. And if they do slip up, they will tumble. The other note I'll make about the top 5 is only one team has won the championship, and that's Denver. So I really can't say that they're the pretender in the top 5 because they're the only one that's won it. So that's my very balanced look at the Nightwing situation.
Very analytical, Cam. Thank you. So here's what's kind of cool, though, right? So we're going to start getting a really good look at this starting this week. And I think we usually don't do this till Thursday, but I'm so intrigued. I'm going to ask everybody right now. This week, we get 2 of these teams playing each other. We get Louisiana and Jacksonville. And Louisiana is on the road at Jacksonville. Like you said, Denver hosts Queen City. So if Denver beats Queen City and Louisiana goes on the road and loses to Jacksonville, Denver's your new number 1. But I want to know from the panel, before we get to the last point and start wrapping things up, starting with you, Coach. Louisiana at Jacksonville, who wins that game this week?
Jacksonville.
Eagle?
Why do I have to follow coach? Jacksonville.
Because that's the way, it's the order, bro. Eddie?
Man, that's tough. That's almost a pick'em game for me. But because Jacksonville is at home, and I know Frank probably is in the lab right now as we speak, preparing for this game. Because I saw him in the chat when they make a comment. I won't say what it was, but it was talking about this game right here. And he caught that comment and said something. I won't say what he said, but I'm certain that he's probably in the lab as we speak preparing for this game. So, because Jacksonville is at home, I'll say them, but this game can go either way.
Gunny?
Both teams are on 4-game winning streaks, but I'm thinking the home team is going to take it, so I'll pick Jacksonville.
Okay, Jeremy, I know you're hoping that Jacksonville will beat Louisiana, but what do you think?
Jacksonville, because they're insanely tough to beat at home.
So nobody's given any love to Reggie Streeter running all over Jacksonville, I guess. Cam, what do you think?
I'm calling the game, so I can't.
Oh, you were calling that game. Okay. Well, I'm looking at Louisiana's schedule, and they played their road games this season. They played at St. Louis. They won. They played at Mexico City. That was their only loss. They played at Portland, and then they played at Houston. This will by far be their toughest game on the road.
Can I make a point about what we're looking at as we're prepping for this game? So Reggie Streeter having a beast of a season.
Mm-hmm.
We all know that. Reggie Streeter one time this season has been shut down.
Mexico City.
Mexico City. Yeah.
In that game, Reggie Streeter had 55 yards on 18 carries. So what that says is that if, I'm not saying you can, but if you can shut down Reggie Streeter, we have yet to see Louisiana win a game when that happens. Not saying they can't, right? Very talented team. And you know, their coaching staff, after all that happened, you know, people think that other people can't work hard. They're working hard. Chicago's staff is working hard. Just because it's resulted in different things doesn't mean that they're not both working hard, right? So they're still doing their thing. But me and Ramos, we want to see if Reggie Streeter does get shut down, what can Louisiana do, right, in that situation? And if they do lose the game, that becomes the formula. Stop Streeter, you win the game, right?
Cam, what is Jacksonville's rush defense ranked right now? Did you look that up yet?
Well, we do prep on Wednesdays, but we can do some advanced prep here. Run defense for Jacksonville. They are 5th at 80.3 a game, but Louisiana is 3rd at 79. So not too shabby either.
As I'm looking at these schedules too, after Louisiana plays Jacksonville, they play 2 teams in a row that are not in the playoff picture and 1 team that's in the cusp, which is Florida. Denver, like you said, Queen City, Chicago, Vegas, and Tulsa, so that's a favorable schedule. Jacksonville has to play Louisiana, like we talked, and then they play Florida, like Louisiana does, so some of these head-to-heads or like opponents might come into play. And then they play Fort Worth, who's done the playoffs, but then they have to play Charleston, which we've all agreed is kind of the wild card, where Baltimore has to play St. Louis, Sioux Falls, and Arizona still, all playoff teams. And Sioux Falls wraps up with 2 of these teams that we're looking at right now, Vancouver and Baltimore, and then they have to play Arizona and then Sioux Falls, who's also on this screen. I think St. Louis, that's also in the playoffs. I think Sioux Falls has the toughest road to staying in the top 5 based on the last 4 games, and I think Denver has the easiest, and I think Louisiana has the second easiest. So I could easily see this being Denver 1, Louisiana 2, Jacksonville 3, Baltimore 4, and I don't know. I didn't get to answer the question, but now that I see the schedules, if I picked a team that could follow the top 5, I think it's actually going to be Sioux Falls based on remaining schedule.
It's funny, Dave, how like quick everything changes.
Mm-hmm.
Like St. Louis was a playoff team, but before the season, where most people are looking at their schedule and going, "Oh my gosh, we got to play St. Louis in Week 10," right? Like a lot of people thought, "Hey, they lost a lot of pieces. That's going to be down." Or were people looking at their schedule and going, "Oh my gosh, we got to play Chicago." Like Chicago has been a bona fide playoff team every single season. And right now they're in a slump.
Right.
And now that game doesn't look so bad, but at the beginning of the season,
right,
Denver gets their schedule and goes, "Oh, Chicago, that's going to be tough. That's going to be brutal." And now they have a different perspective maybe on the Chicago. It's just fascinating, how quickly everything can turn around. Think about Portland. They get Louisiana twice. Awesome. What's the big deal about Louisiana, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden Portland goes, why the heck we get Louisiana twice? Well, Louisiana was not anywhere near the playoffs last year, and a lot can change in 6 months. So it's so difficult to, some teams get breaks, and then some teams don't, and their schedule ends up tougher than they thought it would be, and then some teams go, "Hey, you know what? That wasn't half bad."
No, and that can change week by week, right? 2 weeks ago, and I'll just take Lone Star. Not a lot of people high on us. We have a great almost comeback against Sioux Falls. We go on the road against Fort Worth. All of a sudden, we're the 7th team in the playoffs. We could turn around and lose the next 2 games, and we're out of the playoff picture. So much at stake week by week, game by game. In the SFL going down the stretch in these last 4 weeks. Let me go through the panel one more time. Coach, any last questions or comments for Cam or for anything that we've discussed this evening?
Well, I just, because Eagle likes to hear it, I want to go on record again that I was completely wrong on my preseason predictions about St. Louis. Mea culpa, mazel tov, be well, all of that.
All right. Eagle, you want to respond to that?
No, I'm good. I just wanted to hear it again.
You just want to hear him say it again?
Yeah,
well, you can just go back and keep playing the loop in the show. You can hear it all night long if you want. You have any questions? Go ahead.
I was going to say, he said it a few times on his show, but I just like hearing it all the time. That's all.
Gotcha. You have any questions or comments for Cam or what we've been talking about?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Eddie Gage, anything for Cam or observations on this playoff picture?
Cam, I just want to let you know that the offensive coordinator of the Scorpions is working very hard, so hard, and I'm trying not to let the other he's trying not to let the other 19 members of his team down. And being an offensive coordinator is so tough for me. I don't know if it's because I'm defensive orientated or what. The sims I ran preparing for Atlanta did not play out like the game did, and I'm at a loss as to why my offense continues to do different things than the actual game does. I mean, I'm grateful for the win, but I want my receivers to re-sign with me, and if we continue to only get 5 catches out of my receivers and tight end, it's gonna be a struggle. But I love all my dogs. St. Louis, man, their defense, as I spoke during a YouTube video, Drew Really, that guy knows what he's doing over there. He's keeping them in games. Their offense is playing better than I thought it would. Florida started out 0-4. Now they're 4-4, right back in currently in the playoffs. New Mexico, I knew they would be right in the thick of things, even despite losing their best offensive player.
You didn't think that at the beginning of the season, though, did you, Eddie? We talked on these draft shows that none of us thought they had a great draft.
Who?
Mexico City.
I didn't say that.
No, but it came up a lot in the draft shows that we talked about, that Mexico City didn't have a great draft. I don't think people had high expectations for Mexico City this season. I think that they are by far and away the best overachiever or surprise of the season.
I think as long as Mexico City has Ramos over there, who has a championship, by the way, back in season 9, they will always be in the mix. it's hard without their best player on offense being gone, but he finds a way. He's got that 2 tight end set working for him. I man, I got so much to learn from some of these people. You know, I spend a lot of time watching different offenses, trying to implement different things, and I admire Ramos what he's done. He's transformed his offense this season. He hasn't played like this before, and once he got what's the guy's name? He was on my team last season, for Christ's sake. That second tight end, TJ Punk. I'm like, he's gonna transform that offense, and that's exactly what he did. And I admire him for it. You know, he's got Phoenix Jones over there, and he transformed him from a fullback to a tailback, and he's getting just enough production out of him to get wins. And I admire the guy. Vancouver, they're another team right there in the mix at 4-4. You know, they won their first. I think they got to the second round of the playoffs last season. They're 4-4 this season. Got off to a slow start of a bit, but they're fighting. You know, they're clamoring and hanging right in there. Charles, he's another one. You know, that guy spends a lot of time. He spends about as much time in the lab as I do. Every time I talk to him, he's in the lab. So you guys got a great guy over there. He's definitely putting in the time. Then you got freaking Mighty, you know, 3-time champion. Like I say, started out 1-4. Now he's back to 500. This thing is far from over. I'm almost certain that by the time week 12 concludes, this bracket is going to be flipped around so many different ways. It's crazy.
Oh, I'm sure. Every week to week over the last 4 weeks, it's going to be all over the place. I agree with you on that.
Yeah, I'm nervous about us because we have a brutal last 4 games. We played Sioux Falls, Baltimore. Oh my God, it's going to be Vancouver. So Arizona, I'm trying, y'all. I'm trying.
You guys have a tough 4 games. Hey, real quick before I get to Gunny's feedback on this, I'm looking at the standings, and so Charleston is 3-5, and after Charleston, there's 5 more teams at 3-5, and then the last 2 teams are London and Portland. Like Cam said, Charleston has quite the advantage over the other ones, but I mean, Charleston loses a couple games, and we may have another team or 2 on this graphic next week. Who knows? Gunny, any last thoughts or questions for Cam or anything we've been talking about tonight?
No questions. I appreciate the top 13 breakdown. I'm sure it's going to change the next 4 weeks, but I'm looking forward to seeing all the scenarios as they wind up throughout the end of the season.
Yeah, same here. Jeremy Vega, what about you?
I just got to say I feel betrayed by Cam. That's it.
Was that about the hair or about the Denver comment?
I don't know anymore. He's been serving me all week, so I'm just so lost.
Oh, that's hilarious. Cam, any last thoughts before we sign off?
Yes, I'd like to tell a story to cap off tonight, Dave.
Okay, that'd be great.
I sometimes imagine Eddie and his wife in bed. Not like that, but just sitting and having a nice conversation. And she asks Eddie about his kids, and he talks for like 20 seconds. And that's it. That's all he's got. Then she asks him about how Arizona's season is going. And about 5 minutes in, she grabs a rag with chloroform and she just slowly rolls over and puts it over his face as he drifts off to sleep. I have a feeling that's how Eddie's day ends 3 nights a week.
3 nights a week. Well, you know what? That is a very happy story to end the night on, Cam. I appreciate you sharing that.
I just wanted to see if I could get Eddie going. That's all.
It's always fun to hear Eddie Gage laugh. Well,
I love his passion.
It's awesome. Well, Cam, thanks for coming on and giving us the graphics and the whole breakdown. I don't know how much time you want to put into this every week, but you're welcome to come back. And I noticed your comment in the chat. Next Tuesday, if you want to do this again and you want to be on the show before the After Dark, you're more than welcome to come and break down some games for us from week 9.
That's not what you told me behind the scenes, but thanks for
Well, no, it's because I'm on the air right now. That being said, thank you, Coach Craven. Thank you, Eddie Gage. Frank the Franchise Wade had to go, but thank you to him. Jeremy Vega, thanks for coming on. Gunny, always love having you. Eagle, thanks for popping on. And again, Cam, thanks for coming on and breaking all this down for us. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Everybody you guys held in there. Appreciate keeping the numbers up in the After Dark. That means you guys actually want to hear what we're talking about, so we appreciate it. We will see you Thursday night on Twitch at 9 o'clock, as always. And in the meantime, I hope you all have a glorious evening, and I will see you at the tees.